20 black artists from the 1980s that vanished without a trace. What if I told you that the greatest icons of the 1980s didn't just fade away? They were forced into the shadows by a system that feared their power. From Michael Jackson's guarded fortress to Janet's corporate exile and Sade's strategic silence, these legends prove that in the music industry, your disappearance is often as calculated as your debut. At Black Excellence Legends, we peel back the curtain on the scandals, the legal wars, and the personal sacrifices that defined an era. Is true legendary status built on presence, or is it forged in the mystery of absence? Subscribe to Black Excellence Legends now and join the debate in the comments. Who do you think was truly silenced and who chose to walk away? Grace Jones. Grace Jones did not just inhabit the 1980s, she sculpted them. Emerging from the Jamaican sunshine into the concrete jungle of New York, she bypassed traditional stardom to become a living work of art. Her aesthetic, characterized by a flat-top fade, a sharp-shouldered tailoring, and a statuesque androgynous silhouette, shattered every prevailing norm of femininity. While many peers adhered to radio-friendly Soul, Jones pioneered a cold, mechanical, yet deeply rhythmic fusion of reggae, new wave, and electronic funk. Her residency at the Compass Point Studios in the Bahamas birthed masterpieces like Nightclubbing and Slave to the Rhythm. Working with legendary producers Sly and Robbie, she delivered vocals that were less about singing and more about commanding. Her voice, a rich contralto, felt like velvet wrapped around a blade. Beyond the recording booth, she dominated the silver screen, bringing a terrifying grace to the James Bond franchise in A View to a Kill, and showcasing her supernatural physicality in Conan the Destroyer. Jones's vanishing from the mainstream wasn't a decline, but a refusal to compromise. As the industry pivoted toward manufactured pop, Grace retreated into high-fashion circles and underground art scenes. She remained an enigma, appearing only when she had something revolutionary to say. Even today, at 77 years old, she remains a towering figure of defiance. She proved that a black woman could be fierce, strange, and untouchable, all while maintaining a level of mystery that modern celebrities overexposed by social media can only dream of. Grace Jones remains the ultimate blueprint for the art pop provocateur. Rick James. Rick James was the high-voltage electricity that surged through the veins of the late 70s and early 80s. Born James Ambrose Johnson Jr., he didn't just play music. He weaponized it into a genre he dubbed punk funk, a gritty, bass-heavy collision of street-level attitude and polished melodic genius. His 1981 masterpiece, Street Song, served as the definitive soundtrack for an era propelled by the unstoppable momentum of Super Freak and Give It To Me, Baby. James possessed an uncanny ability to merge raw eroticism with social commentary, all while draped in floor-length braids, glittered spandex, and an aura of defiant hedonism. As a multi-instrumentalist arranger and producer, Rick was a powerhouse who single-handedly revitalized Motown Records during a transitional period. His Midas touch extended to others, most notably crafting the career-defining hits for Tina Marie and the Mary Jane Girls. However, the very fire that fueled his creativity eventually consumed his personal life. The vanishing of Rick James was a slow public unraveling caused by extreme substance dependency and violent legal entanglements. By the early 90s, the man who once commanded stadiums was headlines for all the wrong reasons, leading to a high-profile conviction and a 3-year prison sentence at Folsom State Prison. Though he experienced a brief, surreal resurgence in pop culture consciousness through parody in the early 2000s, the physical toll of his lifestyle was irreversible. When he passed away in 2004 at the age of 56, the world lost a complex architect of sound. Rick James remains a cautionary tale of the thin line between supernova talent and self-destruction. He was a rebel who refused to play by the industry's rules, leaving behind a sonic blueprint that continues to be sampled by every major hip-hop artist today, ensuring his grit never truly fades. Phyllis Hyman. Phyllis Hyman possessed a voice that felt like a midnight rainstorm, cool, deep, and heavy with unspoken emotion. Standing 6 feet tall with the presence of a runway model, she was the quintessential statuesque soul icon of the late 70s and 80s. Unlike many of her contemporaries who chased the frantic energy of disco, Hyman thrived in the quiet corners of jazz-infused R&B. Her 1979 hit You Know How to Love Me showcased her staggering 4-octave range, while her Broadway turn in Sophisticated Ladies earned her a Tony nomination, proving her versatility as a world-class entertainer. She was a master of the sophisticated soul movement, delivering ballads that felt like intimate confessions shared over a glass of wine. However, behind the glamour of the spotlight and the impeccable vocal runs lay a harrowing struggle with invisible demons. Phyllis was an open book about her battles with bipolar disorder and chronic depression long before mental health awareness became a mainstream conversation. Her vanishing was not a slow fade into obscurity, but a sudden, violent interruption of a life that still had so much to give. She often expressed frustration with the music industry's push for pop commercialism, which she felt stifled her jazz roots. This professional friction, combined with her internal turmoil, created a crushing weight that eventually became unbearable. The world was shocked when Phyllis Hyman took her own life in June 1995, just hours before she was scheduled to perform at the legendary Apollo Theater. At only 45 years old, her passing left the music community in mourning for a woman who spent her life healing others with her songs while suffering in silence. She didn't leave because her talent failed. She left because the world felt too heavy to carry. Today, her legacy lives on as a blueprint for vocal excellence and a somber reminder of the importance of mental health support for creators. She remains the patron saint of the brokenhearted, her velvet voice still echoing through the halls of R&B history. Lionel Richie. If the 1980s had a definitive narrator for the human heart, it was Lionel Richie. His evolution from the funky, saxophone-driven frontman of the Commodores to a global pop phenomenon remains one of the most successful strategic pivots in music history. While many artists struggled to bridge the gap between R&B and mainstream pop, Richie built a golden bridge with melodies so infectious they transcended race, border, and genre. By 1982, with the release of his self-titled solo debut, he became an unstoppable hit machine. His 1983 masterpiece, Can't Slow Down, didn't just top the charts. It became a cultural fixture, selling over 20 million copies and earning the Grammy for Album of the Year. Whether it was the Caribbean-infused joy of All Night Long or the cinematic longing of Hello, Richie's music felt like a warm embrace. Richie's vanishing was not a tragic disappearance, but a calculated withdrawal from the brutal velocity of superstardom. After a decade of relentless touring, recording, and co-writing the global anthem, We Are the World, the immense pressure of maintaining Lionel Richie, the brand, began to take its toll. In the late 80s, facing a taxing divorce and the loss of his father, he famously stepped back. He traded the stadium lights for privacy, choosing to focus on his family and mental well-being rather than chasing the next platinum plaque. This hiatus allowed him to preserve his voice and his sanity, ensuring that when he did return, it was on his own terms. Today, at 76 years old, Lionel Richie stands as a beloved elder statesman of the industry. His transition into a mentor figure on American Idol introduced his legendary catalog to a Gen Z audience, proving that true craftsmanship never goes out of style. Unlike his peers who were consumed by their own shadows, Richie mastered the art of the graceful exit and the triumphant return. He remains a living testament to the power of a perfect hook and a kind spirit, showing that you don't have to stay in the spotlight to remain a permanent part of the world's soundtrack. Sade. Sade is the only artist on this list who transformed vanishing into an essential element of her brand. Born in Nigeria and raised in London, she emerged in 1984, not just as a singer, but as an atmosphere. With her signature gold hoops, slicked back hair, and a voice that felt like cool silk against bare skin, Sade and her eponymous band redefined the concept of cool. Their debut, Diamond Life, became one of the best-selling debut albums of the era, anchored by the hypnotic Smooth Operator. While the 80s were often defined by loud neon and frantic synth-pop, Sade offered a sanctuary of jazz-inflected soul and understated elegance. She didn't shout to be heard. She whispered, and the entire world leaned in to listen. The mystery of Sade lies in her profound disdain for the machinery of fame. Unlike her contemporaries who fought to stay relevant through constant public exposure, Sade mastered the art of the long hiatus. After releasing a string of multi-platinum successes like Promise and Stronger Than Pride, she would frequently disappear for 8, 10, or even 12 years at a time. This wasn't due to a lack of interest or a decline in talent. It was a deliberate choice to live a real life outside the distorted lens of celebrity. She retreated to her farmhouse, raised her family, and waited until she had something genuine to say. Each time the media declared her vanished, she would reappear with a masterpiece like Lover's Rock or Soldier of Love, proving that her fan base was not just loyal, but eternal. Today, at 67 years old, Sade remains the ultimate in enigma. She is the rare superstar who has maintained total control over her narrative by saying almost nothing at all. In an age of social media overexposure, her career serves as a masterclass in the power of absence. She proved that you don't need to be visible to be influential. Her smooth, melancholic aesthetic continues to be a primary inspiration for modern neo-soul and R&B artists. Sade didn't vanish without a trace. She left a trail of gold that only appears when she decides it's time for the world to hear her again. She remains the queen of the graceful retreat, a woman who knows that silence is often the loudest statement an artist can make. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was more than a musician. He was a global phenomenon who redefined the boundaries of human achievement in the 1980s. From the moment he debuted his moonwalk during the Motown 25 special, he ceased being a mere mortal and became a cultural deity. His 1982 masterpiece Thriller shattered racial barriers on MTV and remains the best-selling album of all time with estimates exceeding 70 million copies. Michael didn't just record songs, he created cinematic events. Whether it was the zombie choreography of Thriller, the anti-gang message of Beat It, or the precision of Billie Jean, he transformed the music video into a high art form. He was the first Black artist to truly conquer every corner of the planet, unifying audiences from Tokyo to Tennessee through a singular sonic language. However, the vanishing of Michael Jackson was a complex, tragic disintegration that occurred in two phases. First was the social and physical withdrawal, a man who built a literal sanctuary called Neverland to escape a world that wouldn't stop watching him. As his appearance altered and controversies regarding his private life became tabloid fodder, the artist who once belonged to everyone started to disappear behind masks and gates. The second final vanishing occurred on June 25, 2009. Just as he was preparing for a massive 50-show residency in London, titled This Is It, intended to be his grand reemergence, he suffered a fatal cardiac arrest caused by a lethal combination of prescription medications. He passed away at the age of 50, leaving the world in a state of collective shock that arguably remains the most significant moment in pop culture history. Michael Jackson's legacy is a towering cathedral of sound and movement that continues to influence every performer who dares to step onto a stage. Though he vanished from the physical world, his rhythm is embedded in the DNA of modern entertainment. He remains the standard by which all pop stardom is measured, a brilliant, fragmented star who burns so bright that the afterglow of his talent still illuminates the world nearly 2 decades after his departure. Pebbles. Perry "Pebbles" Reed was a formidable force who commanded the late 1980s with a sharp mix of pop sensibilities and streetwise R&B. She didn't just enter the music industry, she stormed it. Her 1987 self-titled debut album was a masterclass in New Jack Swing, producing the iconic Girlfriend in the sleek, high-energy Mercedes Boy. Pebbles possessed a distinct vocal grit and a fashion-forward image that blended high glamour with urban edge, making her a staple on MTV and dance floors alike. Beyond her solo stardom, she proved to be a visionary businesswoman. As the founder of Pebbles, she discovered and mentored the legendary trio TLC, orchestrating their rise to become the best-selling American girl group of all time. Her influence was everywhere from the charts to the strategic blueprints of 90s R&B. The vanishing of Pebbles was a dramatic pivot that left the industry stunned. In the mid-1990s, she became entangled in a highly publicized and contentious legal battle with TLC over their management contracts, which cast a shadow over her professional reputation. Amidst this turmoil and the collapse of her marriage to music mogul L.A. Reid, she underwent a profound personal transformation. In 1997, at the height of what could have been a long-term executive career, Pebbles walked away from the secular music world entirely. She didn't just retire, she renounced the lifestyle of a pop star to answer a spiritual calling. She moved from the VIP lounges of Hollywood to the pulpits of the church, trading her stage name for her birth name, and a new identity as a minister. Today, at 61 years old, the artist formerly known as Pebbles is a dedicated preacher and founder of Women of God in Christ Wogik. Her disappearance from the mainstream was a deliberate act of shedding an old skin to find a deeper purpose. While she occasionally reemerges to discuss her past or defend her legacy, she remains firmly rooted in her faith-based life. She stands as a rare example of a woman who held the keys to the kingdom of pop culture and chose to hand them back in exchange for peace of mind. Pebbles didn't vanish due to a lack of talent or opportunity. She vanished to save herself, leaving behind a legacy of hits and a blueprint for Black female entrepreneurship that still resonates today. Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder is more than an artist. He is a force of nature that altered the DNA of modern music. Dubbed Little Stevie Wonder as a child prodigy at Motown, he overcame visual impairment to become one of the greatest sonic architects in history. For Stevie, the 1980s were a brilliant continuation of his golden era from the 70s. He dominated the charts with timeless melodies like I Just Called to Say I Love You and Part-Time Lover, while using his immense influence to advocate for the establishment of Martin Luther King Jr. Day through the song Happy Birthday. Stevie was a master of synthesizers and drum machines, transforming soulless hardware into deeply emotional instruments, creating music that was both spiritual and irresistibly popular. The vanishing of Stevie Wonder was not a decline in talent, but a deliberate withdrawal from the industrial production cycle. Following his 1985 album In Square Circle, the frequency of his new releases began to thin out significantly. Rather than chasing the rapidly shifting pop trends of the 90s and 2000s, Stevie chose to become a global cultural ambassador. He appeared at humanitarian events, performed at tribute ceremonies, and served as a mentor to younger generations of artists. His absence from the charts was often misinterpreted as retirement, but in reality, Stevie was exercising the power of a legend, only appearing and speaking when the world truly needed his message of love and unity. As of January 31st, 2026, Stevie Wonder will be 75 years old. Although he no longer releases annual albums as he did during his peak, his influence continues to loom over every genre from R&B and funk to modern pop. He is a testament to how an artist can maintain dignity and impact without being constantly present in the news cycle. Stevie didn't vanish. He simply elevated himself from a pop star to an eternal cultural icon. His warm vocals and signature harmonica remain an essential part of humanity's sonic heritage, a musical light that illuminates the world even when he isn't standing in the spotlight. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston was the definitive sonic architect of the 1980s pop soul landscape. When she arrived in 1985 with her self-titled debut, she didn't just climb the charts, she rewrote the record books. Gifted with a voice of peerless clarity, power, and emotional resonance, she became the first artist to achieve 7 consecutive #1 hits on the Billboard Hot 100. From the buoyant energy of How Will I Know to the soaring technical perfection of Greatest Love of All, Whitney, affectionately dubbed the Mice One, set a standard for vocal excellence that launched 1,000 imitators. Her crossover appeal was absolute. She unified R&B grit with pop polish, eventually culminating in the 1990s with the world-conquering success of The Bodyguard and the cultural anthem I Will Always Love You. The vanishing of Whitney Houston was a long, painful retreat played out under the merciless glare of the paparazzi. As the 90s turned into the 2000s, the pristine image of the American princess began to crack. Her voice, once a shimmering, indestructible instrument, grew raspy and fragile, a casualty of a tumultuous marriage to Bobby Brown and a well-documented struggle with severe substance dependency. She disappeared from the heights of the industry, not by choice, but because she was fighting a war for her own survival. The industry that once worshipped her began to treat her as a tabloid curiosity, and despite several attempts at a triumphant return, the effortless magic of the 80s remained elusive. The final tragic disappearance occurred on February 11th, 2012. At the age of 48, Whitney was found lifeless in a bathtub at the Beverly Hilton, just hours before she was to attend a pre-Grammy gala. Her passing marked the end of an era and left a void in the music world that has never truly been filled. Whitney Houston didn't just vanish, she burned out in a blaze of glory and tragedy. Today, her legacy is preserved in the DNA of every power ballad and every singer who dares to reach for a high note. She remains the gold standard, a reminder that while the woman could be broken, the voice remains eternal and untouched by time. Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown was the explosive catalyst that transformed the landscape of modern R&B. After being ousted from the teen sensation group New Edition, he didn't just go solo, he reinvented the archetype of the bad boy pop star. His 1988 sophomore effort, Don't Be Cruel, became a cultural juggernaut, selling over 12 million copies and essentially launching the new Jack Swing movement into the stratosphere. With his razor-sharp, high-top, fade-aggressive charisma and gravity-defying choreography, Brown was the definitive icon of urban cool. Hits like My Prerogative weren't just songs, they were manifestos of independence. He possessed a raw, street-edged energy that bridged the gap between the soulfulness of the past and the hip-hop dominance of the future, making him one of the biggest stars on the planet by the decade's end. The vanishing of Bobby Brown was a turbulent, decade-long descent characterized by a loss of musical focus and a rise in public notoriety. As the 90s progressed, his creative output was increasingly overshadowed by his volatile marriage to Whitney Houston and a relentless cycle of legal troubles, substance abuse, and reality TV portrayals that turned him from a musical titan into a tabloid fixture. He vanished from the charts as the industry's king of stage, became a cautionary figure, his immense talent seemingly drowned out by the chaos of his personal life. For years, the man who once moved with the precision of a young Michael Jackson was barely visible as a musician, appearing instead in mugshots or through the distorted lens of being Bobby Brown. As of today, February 5th, 2026, Bobby Brown has reached the age of 57. His journey back from the brink has been marked by unimaginable tragedy, including the loss of his ex-wife and children, yet he has emerged with a newfound sense of resilience. While he may never reclaim the chart dominance of his youth, he has reclaimed his narrative touring with a reunited New Edition and focusing on his health and family. He didn't vanish entirely. He survived a fire that consumed many of his contemporaries. Bobby Brown remains the gritty soul of 80s R&B, a survivor whose influence can still be seen in every artist who blends melodic singing with the swagger of the street. Diana Ross. Diana Ross didn't just transition into the 1980s. She conquered them as a liberated woman. After 2 decades as the crown jewel of Motown, first with the Supremes and then as a solo powerhouse, Ross began the decade by asserting her total independence. Her 1980 album, Diana, produced by the chic masterminds of Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards, became the biggest-selling studio album of her career. It birthed I'm Coming Out, a timeless anthem of self-reclamation, and Upside Down, a track that proved her voice could master the sleek, minimalist funk of a new era. Diana was the ultimate blueprint for the diva, a whirlwind of sequins, massive hair, and a regal poise that made her feel untouchable. She wasn't just a singer, she was a visual and sonic institution of Black excellence. The vanishing of Diana Ross from the center of the pop universe was a subtle, dignified transition rather than a sudden fall. As the late 80s shifted toward the aggressive sounds of New Jack Swing and hip-hop, the industry began to favor younger, more provocative voices. Ross, ever the professional, refused to chase trends that didn't fit her sophisticated brand. She gradually moved away from the frantic race for top 40 hits and focused on international touring, legendary televised specials, and her status as a global icon. While she ceased to be a fixture on the Billboard charts, she remained omnipresent in the cultural zeitgeist as the boss, choosing to spend her energy on her family and her sprawling legacy rather than competing in an industry that had become increasingly corporate and cold. As of today, February 5th, 2026, Diana Ross is 81 years old. She remains a shimmering beacon of longevity and grace. Unlike many who struggled with the loss of their peak fame, Ross maintained her dignity, appearing on world stages with the same magnetic energy that defined her 1983 Central Park concert. She didn't vanish due to failure. She ascended to a level of stardom where hit singles are no longer necessary for relevance. Today, her influence is seen in every superstar who demands total control over their image. Diana Ross is the original queen, a woman who proved that you can outlast any trend by simply being incomparable. Prince Rogers Nelson didn't just participate in the 1980s, he rewrote the laws of physics for pop music. Emerging from Minneapolis as a one-man army, he possessed the rare ability to play over 25 instruments, often composing, arranging, and producing entire albums in total isolation. His 1984 magnum opus Purple Rain was a cultural supernova, a film and soundtrack that moved 25 million units and yielded the blistering guitar anthem of the same name. Prince was a master of the Minneapolis sound, a revolutionary blend of synthesizer-heavy funk, rock and roll grit, and raw, provocative R&B. He challenged every social norm regarding masculinity and race, performing in ruffled lace and high heels, while delivering some of the most complex musical arrangements of the century. By the time he released Sign of the Times in 1987, he was widely regarded as the most prolific and versatile musician of his generation. The vanishing of Prince was a fascinating, decades-long battle for autonomy. In the early 90s, he famously entered a scorched earth war with Warner Brothers over the ownership of his master recordings. He appeared in public with the word "slave" scrawled across his cheek and abandoned his birth name for an unpronounceable love symbol, becoming the artist formerly known as Prince. He vanished from the mainstream pop machinery by choice, retreating into his Paisley Park estate to release music independently through NPG Records. He shunned digital platforms long before it was trendy, preferring to keep his legendary vault of unreleased songs under lock and key. This self-imposed exile from the corporate world made him an enigma, a shadow titan who only emerged for legendary impromptu performances that proved his skills hadn't aged a day. The final heartbreaking disappearance occurred on April 21st, 2016. Prince passed away at the age of 57 due to an accidental overdose of fentanyl at his Paisley Park home. His death sent a shockwave through the world, as he had maintained an image of supernatural health and vitality. He didn't just leave behind hits, he left behind a philosophy of creative freedom. Today, his legacy is felt in every independent artist who fights for their rights and every musician who refuses to be confined to a single genre. Prince was a purple flame that burned with a singular intensity, a man who proved that being strange was the highest form of brilliance. He remains the patron saint of the musical avant-garde, an icon who vanished only to become immortal. Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan didn't just sing, she ignited the atmosphere. Born Yvette Marie Stevens, she blazed into the 1980s as the Queen of Funk, carrying the momentum of her legendary years with the band Rufus into a solo career that redefined R&B vocal power. Her 1984 hit I Feel For You, written by Prince and featuring a pioneering rap intro by Mel, was a seismic event in pop culture. It wasn't just a song, it was a genre-blurring masterpiece that fused funk, hip-hop, and high-tech pop, earning her a Grammy and moving millions of units. With her volcanic mezzo-soprano range, wild mane of hair, and an unapologetically fierce persona, Chaka became the sonic blueprint for every powerhouse diva who followed. She possessed a rare, earthy sophistication, able to deliver gritty funk grooves and complex jazz standards with equal staggering ease. The vanishing of Chaka Khan was never a disappearance of talent, but a long personal battle to reclaim her life from the excesses of the industry. As the 90s arrived, Chaka's presence on the mainstream charts began to dim, partly due to the shifting tastes of radio, and partly because of her private struggles with substance dependency. She became an enigma of sorts, a legend who remained deeply respected by musicians, but was often absent from the high-stakes pop machine. Unlike artists who faded into obscurity, Chaka retreated to focus on her health and spiritual well-being, eventually moving to London for a period to find a sense of peace away from the Hollywood pressure cooker. She remained a musician's musician, appearing for breathtaking live sets while shunning the corporate demand for constant manufactured reinvention. As of today, February 5th, 2026, Chaka Khan is 72 years old and her flame burns as bright as ever. In recent years, she has undergone a triumphant renaissance, being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 2023, a long overdue recognition of her 50-year legacy, she has emerged from her quieter periods as a sovereign of soul, proving that her voice remains an indestructible force of nature. She didn't vanish due to a lack of relevance. She stepped back to ensure her longevity. Today, Chaka stands as a living bridge between the raw funk of the 70s and the sophisticated R&B of the modern era. She is a survivor who proved that you can weather any storm if you possess a voice that truly belongs to the heavens. Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson didn't just step out from the colossal shadow of her brother Michael. She built her own solar system. While the early 80s saw her as a charming child actress and a tentative singer, 1986 changed the trajectory of pop music forever. With the release of Control, Janet declared a musical coup d'etat. Collaborating with producers Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, she pioneered the Minneapolis sound on her own terms, a rigid industrial fusion of funk disco and streetwise R&B. She wasn't just a pop star, she was a drill sergeant of dance executing razor-sharp choreography that turned every music video into a cinematic masterclass. Her 1989 opus Rhythm Nation, 1814, went even further, blending socially conscious lyrics with high-octane pop, becoming the only album in history to produce 7 top 5 hits on the Billboard Hot 100. The vanishing of Janet Jackson was a gradual, systemic cooling of a career that had reached a fever pitch. Following the infamous 2004 Super Bowl wardrobe malfunction, Janet became the primary target of an unprecedented media blackout and industry shaming. Despite being a victim of an accident, she was blacklisted by major radio conglomerates and MTV, leading to a noticeable decline in her chart presence throughout the late 2000s. Unlike her peers, Janet's disappearance from the top of the charts wasn't due to a lack of quality, but a forced exile by corporate gatekeepers. In response, she chose to vanish from the noise, retreating into a private life characterized by international travel, marriage, and eventually late-in-life motherhood, emerging only for critically acclaimed world tours that proved her Janet Nation remained loyal. As of today, February 5th, 2026, Janet Jackson is 59 years old. Her legacy has undergone a massive cultural reevaluation, with a new generation of fans and critics recognizing her as one of the most influential blueprints for modern pop performance. From Beyoncé to Tinashe, her DNA is visible in every artist who prioritizes precision athleticism and conceptual storytelling. She didn't vanish into obscurity. She evolved into a sovereign icon who no longer needed the approval of the systems that tried to silence her. Janet Jackson remains the ultimate symbol of resilience, a woman who took control of her life and proved that true legendary status is something that can never be revoked by a trend or a scandal. Teddy Pendergrass. Teddy Pendergrass was the definitive Black Elvis of the 1970s and early 80s, a baritone powerhouse whose voice felt like thunder wrapped in velvet. After establishing himself as the charismatic lead of Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, he launched a solo career that made him the first black male artist to record 5 consecutive multi-platinum albums. Teddy was more than a singer. He was a tidal wave of masculinity and raw sensuality. His legendary women-only concerts were cultural events where his smoldering delivery of hits like Close the Door and Love TKO left audiences in a state of collective trance. By 1982, he was at the absolute zenith of his powers, a king of the R&B world who seemed destined for an endless reign of sophisticated bedroom soul dominance. The vanishing of Teddy Pendergrass was a tragic, instantaneous physical interruption. On a rainy night in March 1982, his Rolls-Royce struck a guardrail in Philadelphia, leaving him paralyzed from the chest down at the age of 31. He vanished from the public eye for 2 years as he underwent grueling rehabilitation, fighting not just for his health, but for his musical identity. In an industry that traded on his image as a hyper-masculine sex symbol, many whispered that his career was over. However, Teddy's disappearance led to one of the most inspiring second acts in history. He made a triumphant return at the 1985 Live Aid concert, performing from his wheelchair before an audience of nearly 1.5 billion people, proving that while his body was restricted, his soul remained boundless. He passed away on January 13, 2010 at the age of 59 after a battle with a colon cancer. Teddy Pendergrass didn't vanish due to a lack of talent or public interest. He was forced into a physical exile that he transformed into a testament of human spirit. His disappearance from the top of the pop charts in the late 80s was a natural shift as he focused more on his Teddy Pendergrass alliance for people with spinal cord injuries. Today, his influence is found in every R&B crooner who uses a deep, resonant growl to convey passion. He remains a symbol of unyielding strength, a man who lost everything but his voice and used that voice to inspire the world until the very end. Donna Summer. Donna Summer was far more than the queen of disco. She was the prophetic voice of the future. While the late 1970s made her a household name, she entered the 1980s determined to dismantle the glittering cage of her past. Her collaboration with Giorgio Moroder on I Feel Love had already laid the foundation for every electronic dance track that would follow, but her 1983 anthem, She Works Hard for the Money, redefined her as a rock-infused pop powerhouse. Summer possessed a staggering mezzo-soprano range that could glide from ethereal whispers to church-shattering belts. She was the first artist to have 3 consecutive double albums reach #1, a feat that solidified her status as a commercial titan who could blend R&B, rock and gospel into a singular, shimmering soundscape. The vanishing of Donna Summer from the center of the pop cultural zeitgeist was a complex blend of spiritual awakening and industry friction. In the early A1 a misinterpreted remark about her LGBTQ+ fan base, a community that had championed her from the start, led to a massive backlash and a boycott that deeply wounded her career. Simultaneously, Summer experienced a profound religious rebirth, becoming a born-again Christian. She began to shun the hypersexualized image that Love to Love You Baby had forced upon her, seeking instead to record music that reflected her new faith. This internal shift, combined with legal battles against her former label, Casablanca Records, caused her to retreat from the frantic spotlight. She didn't lose her talent. She lost interest in playing the industry's game, eventually moving to Nashville to paint and live a quiet, family-oriented life. Donna Summer passed away on May 17, 2012, at the age of 63, after a private battle with lung cancer. Her disappearance from the top 40 charts in her later years never diminished her influence. Today, she is recognized as the pioneer who bridged the gap between organic soul and the digital revolution of EDM. Every synth-pop artist and modern house DJ owes a debt to her innovative spirit. She remains the eternal heartbeat of the dance floor, a woman who proved that while genres may rise and fall, a voice filled with divine passion and technical brilliance is timeless. She vanished into the history books as a legend who never stopped evolving, even when the world tried to keep her under the disco ball. Irene Cara. Irene Cara Escalera did not just sing about fame. She was its primary architect during the early 1980s. Emerging as a triple-threat prodigy, acting, dancing, and singing, she became the face of a generation's aspirations. Her breakout role in the 1980 film Fame propelled her to global stardom, with the title track becoming an international anthem for dreamers everywhere. However, it was her 1983 masterpiece, Flashdance, What a Feeling, that secured her place in the pantheon of legends. Co-writing the lyrics and delivering a vocal performance that perfectly captured the grit and glitter of the era, Cara became the first Black woman to win an Academy Award for Best Original Song as a songwriter. Her style was a vibrant blend of theatrical Broadway discipline and sleek electronic pop, making her a singular force on both the Billboard charts and the silver screen. The vanishing of Irene Cara remains one of the music industry's most cautionary and heartbreaking tales of legal asphyxiation. Unlike stars who faded due to a loss of talent, Cara's career was effectively frozen by a protracted decade-long legal battle with her label and producer Al Khoury of RSO Records. After discovering she was being denied millions in royalties following her massive success, she took the then unprecedented step of suing her label. In retaliation, she claimed she was blacklisted by the industry, with doors suddenly slamming shut at the height of her powers. She vanished from the top 40, not because she stopped making music, but because the machinery of the business made it impossible for her to be heard. Although she eventually won a $1.5 million judgment in 1993, the momentum of her superstardom had been irrevocably stolen. Irene Cara passed away on November 25, 2022 at the age of 63 in her home in Florida. Her later years were spent in relative seclusion, working on independent music projects, and her band Hot Caramel, far away from the Hollywood spotlight that had once burned her so deeply. She didn't vanish because her flame died out. She vanished because she refused to be exploited by a system that valued profit over people. Today, her legacy is felt every time a dancer takes their passion and makes it happen. She remains the ultimate symbol of the 80s dream, a brilliant, resilient artist who proved that while you can stifle a career through contracts, you can never erase the impact of a voice that defined an era. Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross did not just sing R&B, he elevated it to a state of high art. Emerging from a prolific background as a premier background vocalist for icons like David Bowie and Diana Ross, he seized the spotlight in 1981 with his debut solo album Never Too Much. Vandross possessed a tenor voice so smooth, so technically flawless, and so rich in emotional nuance that he became the gold standard for male vocalists. He was a meticulous perfectionist, producing and arranging his own music to ensure a lush, sophisticated sound that combined the elegance of classic soul with modern pop sensibilities. Throughout the 1980s, he dominated the airwaves with ballads like A House Is Not a Home and upbeat tracks like Stop to Love, earning a reputation as the king of ballads, who could soundtrack the intimacy of an entire generation. The vanishing of Luther Vandross was a gradual withdrawal dictated by a grueling, lifelong battle with his health and the immense pressure of the industry's aesthetic demands. Luther struggled openly with weight fluctuations, diabetes, and hypertension issues exacerbated by the stress of maintaining a superstar persona. As the 90s transitioned into the 2000s, his public appearances became less frequent as he focused on managing his well-being. Unlike many who faded due to waning relevance, Luther's talent remained undiminished. His 2003 masterpiece, Dance with My Father, won 4 Grammys and proved his voice was as potent as ever. However, just as he reached this new peak, a massive stroke in April 2003 effectively silenced him, leading to a 2-year period of seclusion and recovery that never saw him return to the stage. Luther Vandross passed away on July 1, 2005, at the age of 54 due to complications from his stroke. His disappearance from the musical landscape was a profound loss, marking the end of an era of pure, unadulterated vocal craftsmanship. He didn't vanish because he lost his passion. He vanished because his body could no longer support the weight of his immense gift. Today, his influence is found in every soul singer who prioritizes phrasing control and emotional depth. Luther remains the patron saint of romance, a man who proved that a voice could be both powerful and infinitely tender. He didn't just leave behind a catalog of hits, he left a legacy of elegance that continues to define the very essence of soul music. Tina Turner. Tina Turner did not just achieve a comeback in the 1980s, she executed the most spectacular resurrection in the history of global entertainment. After escaping an abusive marriage and career-stifling partnership in the mid-70s, with only her stage name and her pride, she spent years performing in cabarets to pay off debts. In 1984, at the age of 44, an age the industry then considered past prime, she released Private Dancer. Led by the smash hit What's Love Got to Do With It, the album sold over 20 million copies and earned 4 Grammy Awards. Tina became the ultimate symbol of resilience, characterized by her raspy powerhouse vocals, spiked hair, and legendary high-octane stage presence. She proved that a black woman could reign supreme in the male-dominated world of rock and roll, filling stadiums across the globe and breaking world records for concert attendance. The vanishing of Tina Turner was a deliberate, graceful transition into a hard-earned peace. Unlike stars who struggled to maintain relevance, Tina chose to exit the stage while she was still at the absolute peak of her powers. After her massive 51st anniversary tour in 2009, which grossed over $130 million, she stepped away from the spotlight entirely. She didn't vanish due to scandal or a fading voice. She vanished because she had completed her mission. She retired to Switzerland, relinquished her American citizenship, and sought a life of Buddhist tranquility with her husband, Erwin Bach. She effectively silenced the noise of fame to focus on her health, her spirituality, and her legacy, only emerging briefly for the development of her Broadway musical to ensure her story was told accurately. Tina Turner passed away peacefully on May 24, 2023, at the age of 83, at her home in Küsnacht, Switzerland. Her disappearance from the music industry was the final act of a woman who had mastered her own destiny. She left behind a blueprint for survival that continues to inspire millions. She proved that life can begin at 40, that trauma can be transcended, and that a legacy is built not just on talent, but on the sheer will to persevere. Today, she is remembered as more than a singer. She is the queen of rock and roll, whose roar still echoes through the corridors of music history, a reminder that some flames are truly eternal. Dionne Warwick. Dionne Warwick entered the 1980s not as a newcomer, but as a seasoned legend reclaiming her throne. After defining the 1960s with the sophisticated compositions of Burt Bacharach and Hal David, she pivoted seamlessly into the new decade. In 1982, she collaborated with the Bee Gees for the smooth, hypnotic Heartbreaker, which became a global smash. However, her defining moment of the era was 1985's That's What Friends Are For. As the spearhead of this historic collaboration with Elton John, Gladys Knight, and Stevie Wonder, Warwick helped raise millions for AIDS research, proving that her voice was a tool for both artistry and activism. With her effortless phrasing, cool poise, and a voice that sat perfectly between pop, soul, and jazz, she remained one of the few artists from the Motown era who could still command the top 40 charts in the age of MTV. The vanishing of Dionne Warwick was a strange, multifaceted transition that saw her trade musical dominance for a controversial role in the burgeoning world of infomercials. By the early 1990s, as R&B shifted toward the harder sounds of hip-hop soul, Warwick found it increasingly difficult to secure radio play. In a move that stunned the industry, she became the face of the Psychic Readers Network. While these television spots kept her face in every American living room, they clouded her musical prestige, leading many to view her more as a pop culture curiosity than a vocal titan. She effectively vanished from the charts as she became entangled in financial struggles and bankruptcy filings, retreating from the recording studio to focus on international touring and her role as a United Nations global ambassador. Today, at 85 years old, Dionne Warwick has undergone one of the most unexpected and delightful career renaissances in digital history. She didn't just re-emerge. She conquered the internet, becoming the queen of Twitter, now X. Her sharp wit, candid commentary on modern music, and anti-energy have introduced her to a generation that wasn't even born during her 80s peak. She transformed her vanishing into a masterclass in staying relevant through authenticity. Dionne Warwick remains a living bridge to the golden age of American songwriting, a woman who survived the fickle nature of fame by refusing to take herself too seriously while never compromising the elegance of her legendary voice. At Black Excellence Legends, we believe the vanishing of these 1980s titans was never a simple exit. It was a profound statement on the cost of genius. Whether they retreated to find spiritual peace, fought corporate erasure, or were silenced by tragic circumstance, their absence left a void that modern pop struggles to fill. This leads us to a difficult question. In our current era of 24/7 social media transparency, has the industry made it impossible for an artist to ever achieve this level of legendary mystique again? Or was their disappearance the very thing that solidified their immortality?